It says prepare. It says preparing, so hold on, just in case.
Oh, it says
All
streaming
right.
live.
Now we are. Woohoo! Wow. Trying to contain myself. Yes. So welcome everybody to Thursday nights here. It's all about Goddess Jam sessions. And boy, do we have a Goddess Jam session. Like this is like next level. When I first came up with the jam sessions idea, every one of them has been incredible. You should go check out the past 3 that we've done so far. But this is like, okay. Now we're getting into it. So the reason why I wanted to create something extra special for this evening and brought on this panel of gorgeous women who you'll meet in a moment is because tonight is a super special night. I mean, Goddess Jam sessions we do on Thursdays anyway. Today happens to be a powerful, crazy powerful full moon. We're going to talk about that a little bit. It also happens to be my 40th birthday tomorrow. So when I thought about how to celebrate it and really honor the essence of stepping into our power as we keep growing and evolving in our wisdom and our juicy energy as women, I was like, what better to bring in a panel of other 40-somethings or about to be 40-somethings. So this is what we got going on here. And we're just going to throw in a bunch of amazing questions and conversation and just get it going. So I have my iPad here with, hopefully I can see the comments because sometimes for whatever reason, I can't, but let me open it up here, make sure we can see ourselves. So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce the ladies real quick, and then we're going to have a moment to ground in, settle the energies, bless the space, get the juicy vibes going. So here we go. And by the way, my name is Maria Aleandra. Hi. And if you're watching here live in the Rock Your Life Facebook group or watching the replay, hello. I'm so honored that you're here sharing the space. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing your magic and your sense of possibility. And if you're watching the replay someplace else, like YouTube or anywhere else on Facebook, welcome. And if you are a visionary female leader, entrepreneur, change maker, come on over to the Rock Your Life Facebook group because good things are happening. So let's get into the ladies. First of all, we have Mary Carol Fitzgerald. Say hi, Mary Carol. Yes.
Everybody.
She also goes by MC. She's a branding and fine art photographer. She specializes in portraits, content creation, and landscape photography. Her work depicts portraits, lifestyle design, and connection with nature. She is incredibly talented. Her clients experience up-leveled local and global recognition, enhanced credibility, and visibility that elevates personal and corporate brand awareness. And this is also part because you have your own brand of magic. Like she's a photographer and then some. So that's why her clients experience like an up level because it's more than just that. An avid seeker of beauty, wanderlust, and mindfulness, Mary Carol aims to inspire and motivate her audience in sharing the experience of what and who helps to keep her going on her creative journey, personally and professionally. With over 30 years of experience looking through the lens, I mean, she doesn't look it, but she's living out her dream. She lives in San Diego. MC and I met last year and we had a connection, like one of those immediate things that just like sparks flew out of our eyes. And we were like, oh, hi. Do you remember that moment?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
That was beautiful. Yeah. And MC is going to be 40 on May 31st. Yay! Woo, woo, woo. Celebration.
Yeah.
Let's go over to the beautiful Susie Stanley. Susie is a mindset and spiritual empowerment coach, intuitive, soul explorer, and host of the Midlife Magic online series, which I am honored to be a part of. I was honored to actually kick off the interview series as her first guest. What she created is going on right now. So go follow her, go check it out. There's a very special reason why I brought Susie on here because she's literally celebrating what it means to bring that midlife magic out into the world. So I love it. And she is the creator of broadcastbliss.com. Through her personal journey of healing and self-discovery, she inspires women on their own spiritual path of finding their inner wisdom and reclaiming the sacred feminine in their lives so they can heal themselves and the planet. Welcome, Susie. Thank you for being here. And Susie is 46. Woo, woo, woo. Yes. Awesome. And then we have the beautiful Jen Ailey. Jen Ailey is a bridge between the financial and business world and artists and creatives. For the past 20 years, it has been her passion to help people reclaim and harness the creative process to succeed. Today, that translates into supporting creatives to succeed in the business world by supporting them to apply business skills in a way that leverages their genius. A creative herself, she bootstrapped an Asheville-based jewelry design business that has grown every year since its start in 2013. A coach since 2003, Jen is committed to empowering creatives to thrive in expression, money, and business via coaching, workshops, and community programs. You can find her at jenaileycoaching.com. We'll have all the links and stuff, of course. And what it doesn't say here is that she's a magical being. I know this to be true. Jen and I also met in the same beautiful transformational leadership program where MC and I met. So the three of us went through a very beautiful experience of like becoming, which is powerful. So I've known both of those gals since January 2019, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And Jen just turned 45.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Sweet. Okay. So before we get the conversation going, one of our little rituals here in Goddess Jam sessions is that we do a little bit of Palo Santo. And what's so cool is that I mentioned Palo Santo and literally all of them were like, oh, look, I've got mine here. Susie was like, let me go get it. MC brought hers out. So we got party props.
Yes.
Everybody show your Palo Santo. I mean, hashtag goddess life, party time. And I just want to say that, like I shared in the very first interview with Natalie, the fact that I'm even speaking of Palo Santo, holding this in my hand, like sharing this moment like this in a Facebook Live is a powerful testament to me coming out of my spiritual closet. Just saying. So we're going to bless the space. And then Jen, yes, right? That's good. Freedom. Jen is going to lead us in a quick meditation, grounding, so that we can recalibrate our energies and get ready for a beautiful conversation.
Awesome.
So yeah, Jen, whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me put out
Work your magic, girl.
Catch my Post-its on fire here. Okay.
Palo Santo and Post-its. It's all part of them. It's all part of it. It's all part of it. Yeah. Entrepreneur goddess life. That's how we roll.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Brand aligned.
That's a post.
Yeah.
That's a post. Post-its and Palo Santo. Oh, wow. Okay. I just got an idea. That's a t-shirt too. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So let's allow ourselves to be supported by the seats we're in and feel our energy settle. Close your eyes or gaze lightly in front of yourself. Let your shoulders relax. Notice your breath. Feel the weight of your body being supported, being met, grounding. And take 2 deep breaths into your abdomen and your chest. And one more, and breathe out with a sigh, an audible sigh. Notice what you're feeling in your body. Allow it to be there. And name silently the thing that's most prevalent as far as feeling. Let it wash over you. And let it go. As if you're flushing it out of the bottom of your feet. Anything else you want to let go of from the day in your mind, just allowing your heart to be cleared and your head to sink down into your heart so you're fully in your body and in your heart. And in this moment, giving yourself this space to be here and be in your own skin fully. And now tune in to one feeling you're invoking for this time together. Setting an intention to call in more of something that you would feel nurtured by. And just receive that and allow it and hold that for yourself and honor that desire. And trust that you'll receive it. And when you're ready, take one more deep breath. And open your eyes when you're ready.
Thank you, Jen. Beautiful. What was the energy, the essence, the word that you guys thought of to invoke? Mine is joy.
Mine was surrender. That one came in strong for me.
Togetherness.
Mine is comfort.
Yeah. So joy, surrender, togetherness, and comfort. And it's so much is coming up for me, even with just like that, is this essence of what would it look like if we showed up every day in that energy, right? As women, as powerful stewards of, creation. Like, what would it look like if we were always resonant with joy, surrender, togetherness, and comfort? Like that comfort of being who you are and just, yeah, beautiful. So the first question I want to bring up for you guys has to do with the stage of life that we're in. And so I'd love to know what's most exciting for each of you about this phase.
So the first question I want.
Anybody can go first. Susie, you want to take it?
Yeah. The most beautiful thing about this stage in my life, I think, is very apropos for this session tonight with the full moon and the theme of letting go, because I found that is pretty much the theme of my 40s, with letting go of everything that wasn't serving me, letting go of everything that I was sort of clinging to in the past, and finding the liberation that comes from letting go, and then all of the space that opens up when you let go, and then all the beautiful magic that flows in when you do that.
Yeah, love that.
And I can go next. Yes, and I just started this draft of a painting that's not finished, but this is what it says.
There you go.
And I saw a meme today about the full moon, and the first thing it talked about was literally those exact words, let it all go. And when I turned 40 5 years ago, I, like, that next month, I just realized, like, it was just like this, like a switch was flipped to just care less about what people thought. And I'm not done yet. I still have more to go, but just like that, really just like being more with myself and letting go of what's not important and what's not aligned and what's not from my heart.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love the let it go theme, because I was just diving deeper into this two days ago, writing my book. And it was like, just what does let it go mean? And that was really the first thing that was coming up for me, because I remember 10 years ago, I was going through a 40-day transformational yoga program. And I just remember like crying in my car. I was in a parking lot, and I'm like, what the heck does let it go mean? What does it mean? I don't even, you know what I mean? And then even just last year, it's like, what does that mean? And it really, stems, it goes hand in hand with surrender and releasing resistance and letting go of that grip of control, and so often in life, it's like we're trying to control these things and not even realize it. And then once we just let it go and surrender and have that absence of resistance, that's when we become in the flow with life and with the energy that is, when we get to just be.
Yeah. And it's this, you know, what a beautiful opportunity to invoke that with this full moon, with the transformations that everybody is going through. And if the essence of, and I've heard that from other people that have been, you know, I've been really excited for this new birthday, this new flipping of decades for me. And I've heard everything from, oh my God, you're going to love it on the fourth floor, to just get ready because it's fierce and it's fiery and it's amazing. I've also, and just today I was having a conversation with someone, she's 48, and she was like, you know, when I turned 40, it's exactly what Jen said. She said, I just felt the sense of releasing, of not really caring anymore what other people thought. I felt the sense of freedom to be me, freedom to be fully expressed, freedom to just, this is it. Like it just, and she said it was almost like that, like instant, which was beautiful. And I said, oh, I'm definitely bringing that to the conversation tonight. So I love that we're kicking off with this theme, because this is what it is. And and I also want to bring to light the fact that, and this is what this space is about, is that we are driven, ambitious, entrepreneurial, go-getter, like change makers, women who are really looking to impact the world in powerful ways. And as we step into that, how do we get to show up? That beautiful balance of the letting it go, the surrender. And when you get that sweet spot, that's not about just, it's not a whatever, it's it's almost like a what if all the time, like a constant question from a very deep place. So very juicy. What's coming up for you guys?
When you just said what if, it's like what else is possible, and living in the realm of possibility. Like what else is possible with this situation, with that situation, with my life, with, any little thing. It could be like the most minute detail to the grandest picture. Living in possibility.
Yeah. And for me, I think, I've spent so much time with my visions, with my vision boards, with my ideas, and like what I thought and what my ego thought, or what I was trying to prove or whatever, that there's been a whole different, and there is even now an unfolding of a whole different level of unbecoming more, and also surrendering to what is going to happen. That's when I let go. And there's another piece of art that I made a few weeks ago. I'm just like writing notes to myself, basically, to put on my wall to like keep me sane. And this one says, surrender to make space for grace.
Love it.
And it's across from my bed, because I need to remember that, and to have that trust. And it's a practice.
Yeah. Surrender to make space for grace. Yeah. What about you, Susie? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I was doing a meditation a little earlier today, and I was doing, holding space and doing some full moon meditations, because this is the perfect time. And it's funny, because the first word that came up earlier, and what came up when we did it just now, when we were led by Jen so beautifully, was surrender, but it also came up surrender, joy, and compassion. And so I feel like compassion's a really big one that I got to learn in my 40s. And I feel like it was a rebirth. That's what my 40s felt like, was really a rebirth into becoming. And a lot of like what Jen was saying is like unlearning was a big part of that. The sort of undoing of all of the old strings and all of the old conditioning, and just letting go of all that and unlearning. And that it's been a beautiful space. It's been powerful and full of joy and full of learning and full of new possibilities. It's been a time of magic.
That space, I've been thinking a lot into the phrase to unbecoming to become. And recently I had a beautiful Natalie, again, who kicked off. Her and I are very close. She's incredible. And recently I did this beautiful healing session with her. And the way she does it is you send her some questions, and then she channels her guides and your guides. And one of the and she does it visually, which then she sends you this beautiful visual of, what the path is. And one of the things that came up speaks to what we're all talking about here, which is she saw this visual of the dismantling of a wall, like brick by brick, stone by stone, a wall that had been there keeping me held back, and that I was actually moving, which you saw was me moving each of the cement bricks, whatever, and actually then building a staircase. And she's like, and you're doing this for this, and you're doing this for other people. And I thought, wow, like that's such a beautiful metaphor for what we are all doing when we step courageously into this space. And that's something that unbecoming, that unlearning to then build something new, rearranging of the pieces, seeing potential is I always say it's such a courageous path. It feels easeful, and when you really like lock into the flow, but it's so crazy courageous. So I'd love to hear in that vein of what do you guys think of, the courage that it takes to use your voice, step into your power, move through self-doubt, whatever comes up, which is an ongoing conversation, because gosh darn it, every day is like a roller coaster. Is like, I'm great, and then oh shit, and then life sucks, and life's awesome. Or in one day, like how many feels do we feel? So just, yeah, whatever comes up for you after that.
I want to speak to that metaphor too. I feel like I really love the difference between the building versus growing metaphors, like the masculine building and the feminine growing. And the thing about growing, and I'm actually growing some seeds right now, like planted seeds and growing sprouts to put in my garden. And so I get to watch this process and be with this process and move my sprouts around where the sun is so they can not be so stretchy. And, so I'm very motivated by that right now. And it's patience that's hard for me with that, because I want to have clarity. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to control it. Like all those things my old ways of being, the ways of doing things, I'm having to constantly, like, Mary Carol is smiling, having to constantly I'm
like,
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Also,
and it's like
anybody watching, can you relate? Drop it in the comments. Hell yeah. Because Jen just described all of us.
It's like, and I know one client on here, and it's like this A-type conversation of like recovering, like how do we recover and like undo that way of being and that pressure. And for me right now in the COVID thing, the quarantine, is like this layers and layers of pressure I'm taking off of myself. And I think I've gotten one off, and I feel like, wow, how light do I feel now? This is amazing. And then the next week it's like, oh crap, oh, that's also pressure. Crap. It's like these layers and layers of, taking stuff off that's not serving and unlearning again. And I'm in a place where I'm in a cocoon right now. Like I'm unbecoming to become something else. And it's always a bitch, it's always a bitch. It's like, no matter how many times I do this, no matter how much I know about the process, my ego is always being completely annihilated, and my inner child's freaking out. And so there's like these inner things going on. And I know that my soul is doing the work it needs to do to be where I need to be the next version of myself.
Yeah. Damn, girl, juicy. Please. Yeah. Go for it.
I'm smiling because it's like, talk about getting, like-minded souls together here, because that's exactly what it's like, patience, having patience, because it's a process. And what you were talking about, like the unbecoming to become something else, and what has been a theme that's been coming up for me is coming home. Coming home to myself, coming home to our soul, like to our soul. And it's, I mean, it's like, I would burst out into tears, so often, because of the beauty of the layers that, keep being, unraveling and really coming home to me, and having all of the support around that's so abundant, and that it's a process, and to be patient with it, because it ain't easy. It ain't easy, but it's simple,
Yes.
And we get to to have compassion for ourselves, you know, like you were saying, Susie, and like the patience, and then the trust. I posted something on Facebook at one point and it said, trust the process. And a friend of mine messaged me and she's like, no matter how long it takes. I'm like, yes, no matter how long it takes, you get to trust the process, and then you get to have patience, and then you get to trust and you have patience, and then trust and have patience until it becomes a simultaneous dance where there's absolutely no question whatsoever that you have this full faith of knowingness, of inner knowingness, and that wisdom within you that everything is happening and unfolding in its divine right order.
Boom. Drop the goddess mic.
I love Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I want to follow up on that with the more you trust, the quicker that the lessons come to you. Like I've noticed that too, that the deeper I can trust, like the more things, the more not proof, but the more validation of trusting myself. The more that I do it, the faster that the validation comes, and that the lessons, like I was saying earlier, like the universe just comes in and holds you. The quicker that you allow it, the quicker she can come in, basically. And I think in this process, the one thing that I have found was that back when I was younger, I was always thinking that everything was linear. And that now that I've come into the feminine, I've realized that it's all a spiral. And so we've learned the lessons, and we go around and we do the dance in a spiral, and we learn the lessons and we experience it. And then sometimes we have to come back around, and then we get to relearn the lessons again at a new, deeper level. And so when I've realized that, because what I was doing is in my old energy is that I would think, okay, I've learned this lesson. Now I get to move on to the next, as if it's like this linear line. And that if I come back around, I've somehow failed. And that now that I'm in the feminine and really giving myself that grace and compassion, when it comes around again, instead of feeling like, oh, you know, beating myself, like, didn't you learn this the first time? I embrace it, because it's like, oh, I get to go to the next level of this lesson. And that's so much. And that's just having compassion for yourself and trusting your wisdom that you're learning it, and you keep learning it, and you just keep learning it at a deeper and deeper level. And that's been such a gift for me.
When you started talking about the spiral, I felt it in my yoni. Everybody better know what a yoni is right now. Right. If you don't, look it up. YONI. Speaking of yoni, let's talk about what it means for you guys to be a creatrix. And I'm thinking two words came up as everybody was sharing. The word, the essence of choosing ourselves, like that choice, which to me, that like trust, sort of the trust and that free fall and that leaping into the unknown requires that we have this massive sense of trust in ourselves. And MC, you started touching upon this a little bit. So I'd love for you guys to pepper in when you think about the essence of choosing ourselves and what it means for you to be a creatrix in the grand scheme of your life, and how we get to show up in the world collectively as women.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. I think that's a big theme of the series that we're in the middle of, that you mentioned earlier, Maria Aleandra. That I always get stuck on the Maria Aleandra.
Yeah,
so
you can call me MA too. MA,
yeah, I love it. Flows
like
off the
MC. I borrowed it from her and I stuck. She inspired me.
Yeah, and so my series that I'm working on, it's all about being the creator and designing your life, because I know in my life, that's what I did. Was I was just a passenger. I was the passenger in my life the whole time. And then when you get into the driver's seat, it's such a beautiful space to be in, because there's, your whole world opens up, and it just changes your view. It changes possibilities, and just being the creator, it fills you with a whole new sense of who you are, a whole new sense of what's possible. And then when you step into your creator, everyone else around you, it allows them to do the same, right? And then all of a sudden, it's not just your power that you're stepping into, it's like you're pulling up everyone with you. So I think that's been the most powerful lesson for me in that.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Jen. Go ahead.
So the thing that came to me when you were saying choice and creating is that, it's like my ego has one agenda and my vision board has one agenda. And then really the choice comes down to me being present with myself and trusting the parts of me that have been neglected or abandoned or whatever. And like for me recently, like, you know, listening to myself last week, my birthday week, I was like, what do I want for my birthday? It's freaking quarantine. Like, what can I do? And I was like, you know what? I want to go buy a bunch of paint supplies. And so I made an appointment at the craft store, bought a ton of paint supplies. Like I have like 40 something colors of paint. And like, as soon as I put my brush on the canvas, like I felt this like waves of relief in my body. And this is a part of me that needs to be nourished. And it's not the part of me that I'm used to nurturing, which is like productivity, you know, like getting out there, like doing stuff, being successful, yada, yada. And so I'm having to like completely unwind all of that and come back to like nurturing these parts of me that need support and my creativity, and not for anything, like not for any reason, not for selling it, just because that's what I need right now. And that really deep, like next level mothering of myself is the only way I'm going to get to the next level, because, and it's like the hardest thing for me in a way, because I'm used to doing all the other stuff.
Beautiful. That's like, you know, it's the intentionally creating our lives every single day, moment by moment by moment by moment. You know, anytime we step into a new scene, having an intention of what we are stepping into, you know, like we are the creators of our lives, and we get to show up with joy, compassion, comfort, togetherness, and we get to bring that to the table, because that is what the energy is that we get to put out there, and that's what shifts the world. You know, we're all connected, we're all interconnected, the energy is one. It's like the oneness, like we, of course, we're all our own individual beings, but there's a oneness that is this collective whole. And when we are showing up as our highest and best selves, intentionally creating the comfort and the high vibe, you know, situations, like, sure, we can go to sleep and not, you know, just kind of walk, you know, be sleepwalking through life. And where does that get us? You know, what type of energy does that bring? And you know, I mean, with it creates friction, I think, is what I'm trying to explain. You know, it's like when we're sleepwalking, then there's friction. When we're intentionally creating our lives, then magic happens.
Yeah. I'd love for each of you to share a particularly vulnerable moment in your lives when you had to make a choice between going into that ego conversation or stepping into the knowing, the capital K knowing of something else, and something that feels very like that was something that, you know. I'm thinking of mine too.
I'll jump in there on that
Go
one.
for it. Yeah.
There was a time, I think, you know what, somebody just, my aunt-ish, she's a good family friend, but she's like my aunt, and we were in the Turks and Caicos, and I was living in Chicago at the time and vacationing in the Turks, and I had like a 30-hour broker's license, real estate broker license that I needed to renew. And I just was like, I was over it. Like it was 6 years ago, and I'm like, I'm just over this. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I don't want to do real estate anymore. It was time to come to terms whether I was going to jump into photography full time or let go of photography, put that on the side, and really dive in more into the real estate. And I was burnt out. I was burnt out after the market crashed, and I never really got my mojo back with that. And I sat down at the computer, and I'm like, do I really need to do this? Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it anymore. You know, and there was like this gut wrenching, you know, my intuition was like, you don't need to do this. And then Franny comes over and she's like, MC, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. If it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good, you know, and to really listen into that body intuition that you, that body wisdom, because our bodies are speaking to us, whether it's through, you know, ailments, aches and pains, sickness, all of that, you know, and there's gut instinct. And to be able to follow that gut instinct, and I didn't, I put it aside, and then I dove into photography full time. And it was like one of the, you know, major moments in my life that I had, that I made a decision, and it was very clear.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
I'll jump in. So this was a big one for me. This is the first one that popped into my head. So I won't tell the whole story because it would probably take a very long time, but it was really the decision to leave my marriage. Because that was a really tough one for me. It was a struggle between, keeping up everything that we had built and that looked great on the outside, and that everybody else was thinking, you have a great life, you have a perfect life, versus following, what I knew inside me, that there was something that was something greater, and that there was something that was more aligned, and something where a path that was true to who I was, and I wasn't on that path. So that was a big one for me, because like we were saying earlier, it involved dismantling. It involved basically, taking everything back down to the bare bones of my life and then rebuilding from there. So
yeah, thank you for sharing.
For me, I can't really choose one. Just nothing standing out. But I would say it's a lot of different times where I chose to follow my gut. Actually, I will share one. It was also a breakup. It was like a breakup, and I lived in Hawaii, and it was like, and it wasn't even like this voice that said break up. It was a long relationship, living together, and I moved to the island with him in Maui, and it was like, it was just giving me the next step. It was just like, go house sit this summer. It was just like this next step thing, and that kind of, and I feel emotional right now because that's what I need right now, is that, like, what's the next step? I don't have to figure out the long-term future of like all these details I want to figure out. I just need to know the next step. So it's like each time following that intuition of the next step, that can seem little, but it's huge, because it's like just listening to that voice is a game changer, and each of those steps is a catalyst toward the path that's true and authentic and aligned, even though you don't know where the fuck you're going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I can also think of a lot of moments of that, those choice points of really listening to something deeper. And, the one of them that comes up is when I was laid off, and it was like unexpected, and, one of those world turned upside down moments. And I knew inside that there was a beautiful big door opening that I was preparing for all along, of course, because the breadcrumbs were all there. And I remember one of the first decisions that I made that felt very clear is that I would not apply to any other traditional job. I was like, that was very, like, of all the unknowns, that felt like a very clear, intuitive decision of this readiness to take a leap. And then I eventually, like a month later, I got offered this incredible job. This very prominent head of a university here was like, I want to create a job for you. It was like one of those things that you're like, wait, what? Literally, I want to create this job for you because this and this and this. And I had to say to this very prominent man in the community, like, thank you, but no, I'm going to go do this other thing. And I remember that moment of like, fuck, like that's like a damn. But those are the moments when we tell the universe, we resonate at this different frequency with the universe. And then the universe is like, okay, she's playing. Let's keep sending her what she needs, the next step, the resources, the people, to take the path. Yeah. Any other thoughts that come up around that?
I had another memory of the last time I went to Maui. Had been visiting California. I'd been there in Maui for 3.5 years, and I was getting on the plane to go back to Maui where I lived, and I had a job teaching at the college there. And I was about to get on the plane, and I got to the point where it was like, here's the plane, and here's the part where you're walking on. And I got to the last step to step onto the plane, and my body froze.
Wow.
Like I couldn't take that next step, and I was like, okay, either the plane's going to go down or I need to get the hell off this island that I'm going to. And that was the last time I went to Maui, and I moved 5 months later. it was just like, okay, this is clear. I've survived the plane trip, obviously. And then I was going to have to move.
Wow.
Make it happen. Yeah.
Wow. So now I'd love to bring up, let's talk about, as we are, making these choices, stepping into this knowing, the question around external judgment, the question around what will people, the classic, like, what will people think? What will people say? Our fears of what will they say? What will they think? What will they, yada, yada, yada. I'd love to bring that into the conversation in a real way, because that's part of the obstacle that we face when wanting to embark in something new. And I hear it all the time. I have the privilege of talking with incredible women all the time, either clients, potential clients in the group. And it's such a prevalent fear of that external judgment, that sense of, will they get me? Let's bring that in.
What's coming up for me around that is, how are you going to show up? How are you going to choose to show up? Because if somebody's judging you from the outside, that's their shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really is. And do you get to show up as a leader, and stand your ground into what you're talking about? Or are you going to let other people run all over you? And who's in control there in that situation? Who's in control of your mind? Are you in control of your mind? I mean, same thing that's going on with this pandemic, is the news in control of your mind, or are you in control of your mind? Living intentionally. This is how I'm going to show up today, no matter what is going on around me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what comes up for me when we talk about stepping into the knowing is there's been so many times, especially lately, where they do feel scary, and there is a big unknown, because that's what happens when you start stretching and you start growing. Like, you don't get to stretch and grow unless you push out into the unknown, right? So I've been feeling that I've had a ton of unknowns lately. And what I've learned is that it's kind of like learning to ride a bike. Like, it's almost like training wheels. Like, you feel the fear and you just do it anyways. And then after the first time, when you come out the other side of that and you realize that you didn't fall, you didn't, it wasn't this big scary thing that you imagined in your head, that when you come through that and you think, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad. So then you have a little bit more courage to do it one more time. And then the next time and the next time. And before you do it, you've just been putting one foot in front of the other. And before you know it, you're just like, wow, you turn around and look where I've come, So that's been a big one for me, is just feeling the fear and doing it anyways. And it comes back to trust and surrender, right? It's the same thing. Just trust and surrender, one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that that single, like, what's the next gut thing to do, like I was talking about earlier, kind of like what she was saying too, it's also like having support around you and having connection with people who are doing that also, who are stretching and learning and growing. And because if you don't have that, you kind of feel crazy, and you don't actually, it's harder to move forward. Totally. And so it's like, how do you, and as women, I just feel like there's a huge level of like patriarchal programming that's just in our DNA, that's total bullshit that we have to constantly like slough off. And it's like, the whole like be nice girl, be pleasing, like all that shit that is like, there, it's like constantly taking that off and being willing to be a bitch, to be outspoken, to be bold, to be, all that stuff, and it's like, yeah. So it's also a constant practice just to like slough all that off and let it go, and to connect with each other so that we feel supported and to move forward.
Yeah. And I think it is a constant process for sure. And I think it gets, I don't want to even say it's easier. It's almost like, I love that bicycle analogy. And the other day I was thinking about surfing, and the idea that when you're surfing, and I've never surfed, but there's a surfer in me. Clearly there's a surfer in me somewhere, right? And I've always wanted to learn, but this metaphor popped into my mind, which reminds me of the bicycle thing. It's like, the surfing it's such a, this game of going into this unknown, going into something that's both very vast and potentially scary, but also like, what's more magical than the ocean? Getting on a board, finding the balance, falling, coming back off. And then there's that sweet spot of finding the flow in the wave. And then the wave itself with your balance and everything just takes you. And so if we have the courage to keep getting back on and to find the balance and to have both that strength and that flexibility, it's like that core strength and also that flexibility to not be so rigid that then you're for sure you're going to fall, and to allow ourselves to find that flow. Like that to me is the state of like, wow, like, okay, that's what we're striving for. And it's a constant every day. And I don't know that it gets easier. I think it becomes more and more like integrated in our system, in our spirit, in our like we embody it more and more. So it feels more easeful to step into power. I love that you brought in, Jen, the idea of community. And one of the things that's been most healing for me is finding the other incredible women to have the conversations with, to feel like, oh, you too, like just what we did about our little Palo Santo party props here. Like, the little things like that make you feel the sense of like, wow, there's a connection there. And there's this permission to speak freely. Also, since you brought up patriarchy, Jen, this book, Patriarchy Stress Disorder, have you read it?
No.
Oh, girlfriend.
That sounds good, though. I like the title of that.
Patriarchy Stress Disorder by Dr. Valerie Rein, or Rein, R-E-I-N. Ladies, book club is coming.
I was going to say, sign me up.
Yes. Yes. Tam, I know you're watching. You're reading it. Tiff, I'm sure you're either watching or going to watch the replay. She's started reading it too. It is a phenomenal book. I found out about this author recently through a podcast. And it is a really powerful and very healing book because her perspective on what she calls patriarchy stress disorder, she coined this term because it's part of that programming that literally makes us feel like we are worth less, like that's the story we've been told, that we are worth less than men. And so, and this isn't a guy bashing in any way, shape, or form. It's just the energy that we've been in collectively for so long. And it takes us to like open up space for all of it so that we can all heal. Because the guys get to heal too. They're not, this is not like, it's not a right or wrong thing. Like they get to heal massively and we get to support them through that as we co-create with, whether it's partners or friends or whatever, with masculine energy, and heal our own masculine energy within and bring it into calibration with our feminine. Because a lot of us have been tending to we have a history of running more masculine in a lot of ways and a lot of the big important decisions in life. And then the feminine is kind of like tucked back. So that's a big shift. But anyway, I just wanted to drop that gem in because I think it's an incredible book for all of us to read during this time, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. I just had a conversation today. I was on a podcast, and that's the exact conversation that we had, was about how there's so many of us, powerful women, we default to the masculine because that's the structure that we were raised in. That's what we lived in our whole lives was, and we still do, in a patriarchy. And so in order to get ahead, the programming is that, you embody that masculine energy because that's how you move forward. And so all the shifts that happen when you shift into that feminine, that's when things start to open up. And so I really like the point that you said, because that's what popped up for me as well, is when you said that men are just as much victims of the patriarchy as women are. Like we're all victims of it. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's men against women, right? And so I think that's a really important point.
Have y'all heard the metaphor? I heard it was, so Lynn Twist, who founded Pachamama Alliance and wrote The Soul of Money, she's the one I heard this from. And it's basically that there's a bird of humanity, and this bird of humanity has been flying high, and it's become so imbalanced because the male side of the bird has become, the wing has become so big and the female so small that the male wing has gotten bigger, and it's trying to keep us afloat. And so in this century, it's becoming the balance of this bird of humanity becoming balanced. So we're growing the female wing again, the feminine wing again, so that we can be balanced as earth beings, basically. And so as soon as I heard that metaphor, I just cried, because I felt like the masculine is doing its job because it's keeping us afloat, but it's not working. And I feel like the pandemic right now is a big like slap down of, coming into ourselves, coming into the feminine, slowing down, literally like clearing the skies, clearing Mother Earth, cleaning her from like a virus. And, she has a virus to like clear and cleanse and reboot. And yeah.
Yeah.
I love that analogy. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. And I'm familiar with Lynn Twist. I've read The Soul of Money. Incredible, beautiful book. And it's like, again, it's like use your voices, that using your voices in the little spaces and the big spaces. I think, and again, because I have conversations with women all the time, there's this innate desire to find a platform, to find like a space to express. It's like this unexpressed something that's burning within us. And so that's why such a core part of my mission is to support other visionary women in having that space to express, to show up in a way that really resonates, because then the opposite of that is the space of constriction and the space of just unexpressed tightness. And that for me was soul crushing for so long. And my life checked all the boxes and, all the things. And yet there was this very deep yearning to show up, to like emerge in some way. And of course now I bless the path that I've been on, and it's been perfectly divine. And what better way to keep these conversations going than to have that ability to express, that without feeling held back, and without feeling like our words won't matter as much. You know what I mean?
Thank you for creating that space for us, because this would not have happened this way if it wasn't for you inviting us and showing up for it and shining as brightly as you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to second that. I'm so grateful for you and for all of the women in this community. I feel like this is a time is so ripe and it's so fertile. And I feel like it's just like this, I was saying earlier today, it's like a phoenix rising, and we're all just like, it's all like we're being called, and we're all answering the call, and we're like shoots just shooting out of the ground and just like reaching up to the sky, and like this acceleration of like, it's like an explosion almost. Like, when you see videos of time-lapse photography, when the shoots come out of the ground and you see plants reaching up towards the sun, I feel like that's happening now in like super fast, like time-lapse photography. Like we're all just rising and just like reaching and growing. Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Oh my gosh, Susie, I've got just to spin on top of that, as you were speaking, I was thinking about this garden that I planted last week with mates, and in 1 week, I'm seeing like these buds like coming out of the ground, and like the plants are getting taller, and I'm like they're growing like right before my very eyes, And I had done an ayahuasca ceremony or ceremonies last summer, and one of my visions was that I was in like I came to realize it was like I was in this cocoon, and I was feeling very suffocated. And then all of a sudden the space started opening up, and it was opening up. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I think I'm in a garden. You know what I mean? And then like raindrops were falling down, and I was emerging into like up through the ground, like from underneath the soil, from a caterpillar to a butterfly, whatever you want to call it, and it was just beautiful. And like, I'm thinking of like this pandemic, and like San Diego just recently opened the beaches for walking and running and surfing. And it's like, people are just starting to like kind of come out, and like, there's this, and the bioluminescence has been going on too. It's been so beautiful. And it's just like, there's this emergence happening, same thing with the plants. And like, we as humans, like coming out of like this quarantine, gingerly, slowly, cautiously, respectfully, and, all coming in together again.
Ladies. I mean, this has been juicy. I was just looking through the comments, and I just wanted to answer one beautiful question that came in from Maria Durish. She says, great topic. Love that you're here. How do you slough off harsh comments from naysayers, people that are judging you and your choices? So I think that's actually a beautiful, very powerful way for us to wrap up. Kind of like, okay, what is our message to inspire others who might be feeling that way? Because Lord knows I feel that way sometimes, a lot of times. And it's like, okay, and you don't do it anyway. But I remember a time when that go do it anyway felt way more distant. Yeah. So what comes up for you guys?
What comes up for me is that people are operating from their current state of consciousness. So if they're not being nice, you know, that's their current state of consciousness. And also, like, everything, there's a lesson in everything. So again, it goes back to, like, how do you get to show up as a leader, and who's in control here? You know, like my dad always said, don't let anybody live rent free in your head. And it's such a beautiful, you know, thing to remember, because it's like, if somebody's really bothering you, how do you get to address it so that it's not bothering you anymore? You know, and you know, just even some suggestions, like if there's somebody that's out online is one thing. If somebody's, you know, if it's a one-on-one type of thing, you get to have a conversation and a clearing conversation with that person, or get it out on paper, journal about it, write about it. You don't even have to give, you know, the letter to this person. And especially if it's somebody just online, I mean, you can also talk about it. You can talk about it. You can address it publicly, you know, without saying any names or whatever. But yeah, it's how do you get to show up as a leader, as opposed to thinking like you don't know what you're talking about? Who's the expert here, you know? And are you going to let them control like your emotions, or do you get to stand up and like address the topic powerfully?
Yeah, I love that. The immediate thing that sprung to mind was the advice that I give my 16-year-old, and I have for a few years now, which is a couple things. One is, I think one of you touched on that already, is hurt people, right? So if somebody is coming at you with the energy of attack or hurt, or, you know, just the negative energy, they're just discharging it from themselves because they're in deep pain. So they're just trying to discharge it onto somebody else. So sometimes that helps. And then the other thing is, I always bring it back. It's kind of like a simple metaphor, and it's a little cheesy, but I always fall back on it because it works when I remind myself of this, is that like my favorite band, you just think of whoever your favorite musician or mentor or band, whatever, someone that you really look up to. And just think that even they have people who are saying crappy things about them and who are like, they're the worst and they suck. Does that change your opinion of them? Does that make them any less worthy? Does that make them any less amazing and spectacular? No. So I always try and remember it. And that's the advice that I always give my teenagers. Like, my favorite band doesn't suck is not any less amazing, right? Just because somebody's like, that band sucks, right?
What is your favorite band, Susie?
It happens to be Pearl Jam. So
nice.
That ages me a little, but yeah.
Perfect. I also think about Brene Brown's, or no, actually it's not her quote. She's quoting somebody else. The quote about, like, if you're not in the arena, you can't criticize, whatever that quote is. Like only I want to hear from people who are in the arena as well. And I think about Dr. Seuss' quote, those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. And Marianne Williamson's, I'm not sure if this is from Course in Miracles or what, but I've heard her say lots of times that, yeah, there you go. Lots of
nice. Props are ready to go.
That, you know, everything is an attempt to love or a cry for love. And so just really, like, you know, I find that I get criticism when I have my own fears that I'm attracting sometimes. And so it's like, okay, can I look at it like, oh, do I have this in me? I'm attracting it so I can clear it. You know, it's an opportunity for me. Or if the person's just an asshole, like, cut them out. You know, I mean, it's that simple too. It's like, you know, who do you want to have in your life? What's nurturing, you know? Yeah.
Powerful. MC, Susie, Jen, thank you, ladies. Thank you from the bottom of my goddess vibe heart. This has been truly, truly special. You can feel it. I hope you guys felt it too. Thank you to those who have been watching. I love your comments as you've been chatting along with us, and thank you to everybody watching the replay. I'm going to make sure that we post this in a place where we can share it wide and broad, and just, you know, really bring it into all the nooks and crannies of who this gets to touch, because I know that so many incredible women and men will resonate with what we shared. So I thank you guys for standing in your power, for showing up bravely. I admire each of you deeply. You all inspire me in how you show up in the world. You know, I consider you soul sisters through and through. So it's an honor to be on the journey with you. Thank you. And to everybody watching, it's an honor to be on the journey with you as well. So we'll see you next Thursday. Make sure to share the love, invite more goddesses into Rock Your Life, and go out and just be amazing. Shine your light, and dip into your courage, because it's always in there. All right. Thank you, ladies. I love you.
Mwah.
So much.
Mwah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.